All right, so what we have here is just the introductory slide. My first disclaimer is that Fuel education courses changed names from Aventa. So if you've ever heard of having an Aventa class in the past, it is now Fuel Education, or FuelEd for short. You've probably heard of some references there. But these are independent classes taught by teachers that we contract out with, so they are not actual WVL teachers. So you wouldn't have any of the teachers that you might have for your core classes for any of these FuelEd courses. Some examples of classes that you might be familiar with or that you might be participating in or have participated in the past would be accounting, some credit recovery classes, and related. And then over on the right-hand side here, this is where a bulk of our world languages originate. So that would include Spanish, Latin, German, French, Mandarin, and so on. So that should really encompass just about everybody who's in here today who has a class with FuelEd. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the pacing of FuelEd classes. The intent is that, or the idea is that students would be using FuelEd classes within the course of a semester. Now, there are exceptions to that, of course, and you can talk to your SLA or me about that, but we want to make sure that everybody's following along at an appropriate course pace. They're designed to be semester-long classes, and I'll show you how you can set that up to have a start and end date that is suitable for you. And I'll be showing you guys an actual class here shortly. But again, make sure you're aware of the start and end date. Create a personal pacing chart within the course, and like I say, I will be showing that here momentarily. In the case of some classes, unit exams and some finals are password protected, and so you have to contact your student learning advocate in order to obtain that password. So if you're working your way through your lessons and you get to a point where you have to take a quiz or a test and it requires a password, contact your SLA for that. They'll be able to get that and pass it along to you. As I mentioned before, the instructors for these classes are not WVL teachers, and so they have an abundance of students that they're working with around the nation, oftentimes, at least within this state. And so they are taking their time to make sure that they're being thorough enough with their students. And so if you have a question for them or they're grading lessons, it might take a couple days for them to get back to you, but they will get back to you and they will grade that material. Make sure that you are reviewing the comments in the grade book that you'll see here in a moment. They'll have comments and offer their ideas for you in the gradebook section. So if you submit something and they are asking you to make some corrections for the next assignment, make sure you check there because they'll give you that feedback that's so critical to improving within your classes. When you're submitting work in a FuelEd class, it's a little bit different format than maybe what you're used to. It's important to recognize that. So it's not as simple as using Google Drive or Google Docs or a Word document or something like that. My main disclaimer will be that you cannot use or you cannot submit work using Google Drive in a Fuel education course. The Google Drive submissions are used exclusively for our teachers and our classes. Mr. Kahn, Mrs. Zander, Mrs. Narrows, Mrs. O'Donnell, they would be the ones that you're using Google Docs to submit work. But here, you can use Word, but you have to make sure that it's saved as a rich text format. I have a little window on there showing what that would look like. So the Save As window, let's say you have a paper to write in this class, and you get done with it and you want to save it, you click Save As, and then in the little drop-down bar there below the file name, it says Save As Type. Those of you who are using a school computer would see this long list. You'll want to select rich text format, and that's what that little window shows there. And then you just click Save, and then it's saved as a rich text format, and then you submit it into the area that you have for that class, the appropriate Dropbox, if you will, or the appropriate submission area. So what I have on the right side of this slide is just an explanation or a written explanation of what I'm trying to explain verbally and through that image there. And then the important message, the other important message here is that teachers of, and I put Aventa in there, I'm sorry guys, that should say FuelEd. Teachers of FuelEd courses cannot and will not accept assignments by email. So if you're in email communication with a teacher, they cannot and will not accept that as a submission. So I just want to be very clear about that. And again, that should not say Aventa, that should say FuelEd. I apologize. So just to give you a sense of how the grading works with some of these classes, over on the left-hand side, credit recovery classes, students have up to 5 opportunities on each quiz. And if a student needs to have their quiz reset, that request must be made by to the instructor. And so, hey, you took the quiz and you thought you could have done better, get in touch with the instructor and say, could you please reset that? And they'll do that, and they'll do that up to 5 times per quiz. But that does not mean that you go in there and just blindly take quizzes and rely on the next ones thereafter. So make sure that you do take your time and do a good job the first time, because it'll save yourself time in the end. And then points and percent complete are monitored throughout the duration of the course. And you can find that in your grade book, and then the SLAs and I are able to check that on our end. Just a quick check-in on all of you. Is everybody hearing me okay? Are you understanding everything that's coming through? Any questions so far? Okay, excellent. Thank you guys. Hey, a very, very engaging group here today, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. Moving on to the right side of the slide here, just to give you some more information about the world languages and accounting and other related classes that there might be within FuelEd. The gradebook has assigned points per assignment. I guess that's pretty self-explanatory. So what I'm trying to say is each assignment will have assigned grades, or we'll have assigned points. Audio files and discussion points must be completed. The audio files will be primarily within the context of the world languages because, well, hey, it's a language and that's spoken, and the teacher needs to be able to assess your spoken ability within that language. But make sure that you do complete those tasks in there. And then, of course, points and percent are monitored there as well, just like in the credit recovery courses. There are no resets or redos in any of the other classes, though. Credit recovery is the only path that has multiple attempts on a lesson or assignment or quiz. As far as communication goes within FuelEd, again, you're using and contacting a FuelEd independent teacher. So you will contact them directly, and email is the best way to get a hold of them. Within the grade book, make sure that you're actually reading the comments there. That's one way that the teachers will get in touch with you. You are not able to communicate with them through the grade book, though. If you do have questions, email the instructor, and then also know that the email that's on file with FuelEd is your school email. That would be what you're using, the @NOSD email account through the school. So that's the one that they have on file. And so if they're trying to get a hold of you, that's the one that they're going to be sending it to. If you do have difficulties with the course whatsoever, a nice place to start is by contacting the SLA. Make sure you contact them immediately. Don't let this sit for 2, 3, 4 days and then say, oh yeah, I think I'll contact my SLA now. No, that's unacceptable. Make sure you let them know right away. And more often than not, we can sort it out with you guys and figure it out with you or for you. But if it's something that we're not able to handle, we will be able to point you in the right direction or make the suggestion as to how it can be alleviated, because there are things within FuelEd that we are unable to assist with. Follow the pacing chart as a minimum pace. Don't allow these, just because these are independent classes, doesn't mean that you should let them fall to the wayside of your overall academic progress. It can be easy to get caught up with the live classes and really focus on those, but then let the independent classes fall to the wayside. Make sure that you're staying diligent to those classes, the independent classes. And then make sure that you know that all lessons should be completed in the order that they're assigned, so sequentially. It's just logical, I guess, to me, to say, okay, well, if they're going to put them in a particular order, that must mean that the content must build on itself. And so to jump from lesson 1, unit 1, lesson 3 to unit 3, lesson 4, well, that's a huge gap in there, and you probably have no idea what they're talking about in unit 3 without understanding everything that led up to it. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. All right, and now as it comes to course navigation, pretty straightforward. There might be a bit of a learning curve with the navigation of getting into Launchpad and then getting into FuelEd the first couple times, but stick with it. It'll come. We are here to help you, and the way that you're going to access the class is by logging into Launchpad. Hopefully all of you have had a chance to be able to do that. And so once you're into Launchpad, then you will click on the FuelEd icon, and then make sure you let your SLA know if you don't see that. And I'll show you guys all this here shortly. I'll pull up a screen share for you to take a look at it. Type in the username and password. You only need to do this one time, or the first time as you're logging into FuelEd, because then Launchpad will log you in automatically every time thereafter, as long as you're logged in with your school email account within Chrome. And the sub point there that I have underneath item number 3 is that the username and password would have been sent directly from FuelEd to your school email account. Let the SLAs know, or let me know if that was not the case. That would have been done earlier this week. And then number 4, select the course. Select the correct course if you're enrolled in more than one. If you're only enrolled in one class, hey, pretty easy. That's the one you pick. But if you're in more than one, then make sure that you pick the right one. All right. Before I jump into the actual navigation here, let me check in and see if anybody has any questions that haven't been answered. I know the SLAs have done a good job of addressing them for the most part. That's a great question, Janae. They actually have some instructions on how to do that. So the instructor for the courses put that information together for students to understand in knowing that there are accents, as you mentioned. So that will be there, and then otherwise it's actually built in pretty conveniently into Microsoft Word. Even if you were to Google how to add accents in Microsoft Word, you'd probably be able to find a quick instruction on how to do that. Joe, you're asking about taking Fuel out of the folder in Launchpad and just put by itself. My guess is you're probably referring to the sub icon where there's another collection of FuelEd icons in there. I'm not sure, but I haven't looked into it personally. My guess is it's possible, but I just don't know off the top of my head whether or not you'd be able to. You can give it a shot, or that's something that I can work with you at a later time on, or even Mrs. Wiebelhaus. Let's see. Student email, Matthew Youngworth. And if you don't see it or you're having issues, let me or your SLA know. Okay. Yes. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah. See, that's the help there. Okay. I'm going to get set up here real quick to pull the screen share. Please give me one moment. All right. So now you should be seeing. I'll take you into Launchpad here first. Are you guys able to see my Launchpad screen here? Okay, that's a good sign. So you should be able to see my icons here. So I'm going to start you off from getting in Launchpad. You log into Launchpad, you'll have these icons. You won't necessarily have all the same ones that I will, but this will at least get you familiar with that. So you're into Launchpad. Joe, I believe you were probably referring to the curriculum providers icon over here where there's multiple. I would click in here, and in this case, the Fuel Education icon looks like this, kind of like a yellow Facebook version, I guess, is what that appears as. But it says FuelEd, and I would click on there, and then that would redirect me into entering my password and login information for the first time, and then it would grant me access to the class. So let me see here. What we're doing is looking at an account right now. So you will first, there's one more screen before this one, and you will have just a link over on the right-hand side of the screen. And you'll click on that link. It'll be underlined, and it'll take you to this page. So just your home page here. So no announcements at this time. This is a Spanish class. This is a Spanish 1 class. So I know we have a lot of students that are taking world languages. And regardless of which class you're taking in FuelEd, they're going to be set up similarly here. They're going to look a lot alike. So the main things, the main similarities that you'll see are going to be the information over here on the left-hand side. Navigation is primarily over on the left-hand side, and it stays consistent throughout the course no matter where you are. And then a lot of the information is the same. So in looking at this, you have staff information. There's nothing in this one right now, but it will get populated. This is where you would contact your teacher with any questions. They have communication information. This is how, if the class has journals, for example, this one does not at this time, but if your class does, that's where it would be located. They have an online support center that just redirects you. I'm not going to spend too much time focusing on that right now, but if you're having any technical issues that can't be resolved by WVL, you would get support from Peak 12 or FuelEd in that case. There's an end of the course survey, not very critical right now. Grades I'm going to come back to, but that's just a real quick stop to check on how you're doing in your class. All right, so here you are in your Spanish class. This is where the navigation will take place, pretty straightforward. You see here it's broken into units, and there's 18 units. There are about 18 weeks in the semester, so that translates to about a week or a unit per week. And within each unit, if you click on that one, you'll see that there are multiple lessons, 5 lessons. Hey, there's 5 days in a week. That translates to a lesson per day. And so hopefully you guys can see that if you're following along per day there, you're going to be able to complete this course within a semester. Now you can work at that pace if you want to. If you want to work ahead, that's certainly tolerated as well. Again, what we don't want though is for students to fall behind in the event that they're unable to complete it in the course of a time that their SLA has set forth for them. So Yeah, very funny, Peggy. Hey, that's my high school level math for you. Um, so straightforward. That's Unit 1, Unit 2. Let's go ahead and click into some of these lessons then. So they'll have a set of instructions in here, and don't be intimidated by the amount of items that you see here. Each of these will only take you a couple minutes. You know, it's not like each one is a 15 or 20-minute production. So don't be scared off by that. And you just go through and click on each one of these to work your way through the course. I'm going to head back to the Unit 2 here. We are in Lesson 2. And again, wherever there is an assignment or a quiz or an exam, they'll let you know that. It'll pop up in here. I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly where they are within the Spanish course here, but as I say, as you work your way through it, you will find it. So they're doing a better job of making this more logical for students and a bit easier to navigate. I personally like the setup that they have for this. And you can check out the introduction as well. This is a nice place to start for anybody that's just getting going, clicking on the student resources, and they have all of the general information that you need to be successful here. So welcome to Spanish. I would advise you even today or sometime this weekend or as soon as Monday to go through and click on each of these or any links that might be in your particular class that have to do with welcome or orientation. It's not, like I say, it's not going to be exactly the same. It may not say or introduction. Maybe it says orientation. Whatever the case might be, you know, there's going to be some material in there to help you get familiar with it. Janae, I think you were asking about the foreign accents. This document right here, I'm guessing, would address that they're talking about on PC. We use Windows, so that's going to be that document. But please make sure you go through each one of these because they will help you get a better idea of how to successfully complete the course. If you don't go through this and just go straight to your SLA saying, I don't know how to do this, you know, you might not, you might just get pointed right back to it here because we want to make sure that you guys are going through and using all of your resources before just coming straight to the SLA, because the SLA may not necessarily know either, and in which case we walk through it together. Any questions about what you guys see here right now?
Just real quick too, up next to homeroom, which is what we're on right now for this course, there is an orientation. So you're able to look at that too, and gives you familiar with all the Peak 12, how the courses are, not Peak 12, FuelEd, that they're all, how they're set up.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Brown. That's a good point. FuelEd does a good job of providing resources to students to help them help themselves. I think it helps reduce a lot of the work on their side as well. So pretty straightforward. And so this is the Spanish class. You're going to find something similar within other world languages. But again, you just work your way through the units as they're outlined on there. I'm going to switch over to another account here momentarily and check in on a couple other classes just because I know we have other students in various classes as well. So if you give me one moment, I will take care of that. I'll be right back. All right, now we're over to another example here. Everybody okay with what they see here? All right, thank you, Dolan. All right, so what we have here would be a student who is an example that has accounting and an algebra class, credit recovery here. So I'm going to head into the accounting class. Now you're going to see some different, so this is the landing page that you get after you log in. This is where your classes are listed. You just click on the appropriate class. And then there's some general announcements in here. You'll see that it's not quite as, the units are not quite as comprehensive as what they were over in Spanish. But again, the navigation remains the same. It's going to be over here on the left. You have the orientation, so please make your way through that. They have the units underneath here, so Intro to Accounting, Basic Accounting Cycle, and then it ends with the Semester 1 exam. Staff information, again, you can see that. They have his contact information here, any announcements that there might be. So I'll show you real quickly here. This is just the first unit. And again, you just make your way down the line, from one until the next. Do not skip around because you're going to have lapses in material then. So make sure that you are paying attention to that. All right, I had mentioned there is a way that you can put together a schedule for yourself within these classes. Where you'll find it is within this, in this class is within the orientation link here. So you click on orientation, and of course, you're going to go through and click on each of these because you're all such good students and you want to be effective in your classes. So you work your way through these, and then you'll click on schedule here. And you can set the dates. So I'll just give you an example. Let's say we wanted to get this class done within the course of the semester. So start date is September 2nd, 2014. End date will be 2015. That's kind of gross to think about right now. But what's even more gross to think about is January 22nd, because the weather will be nothing like what it is right now. And then you just click submit here. So that's the end of the semester, that's the course of a semester. Click submit, and then it automatically calculates for you what you should be working on any given day. So you have the due date within the set of the weeks, and then the tasks. And they have it broken down by date here as well, kind of, I would call them checkpoints for you. So it's not every day, as you can see, but the example here, they have on October 3rd, students should be working on this assignment, and then on October 8th, they should be working on this assignment. So it's not every day, but it's enough to give you an idea of what you need to be able to do. That's the dynamic course schedule there. So again, that was within orientation. So I clicked on this link, then I clicked here on schedule, and it took me to that. And again, if you want to go and click on any of these units, you just work your way through top to bottom, left to right, and make sure that you're taking notes. I'll click on this one right here. You can navigate along the bottom. So you work your way through each lesson, make sure you're taking notes all the while, and you can go back as well. But pretty straightforward. You can see this particular lesson is 14 slides. So that would be your lesson for the day, or if you want to get a couple done, that would work as well. All right, so as far as checking grades go, this is where you'll be able to do that. Pretty straightforward again. Like I say, they're trying to make it very user-friendly. You'll click on My Grades, and it will list all that information here. Nothing's done in here yet because we haven't started school, but this will populate as you complete tasks and your teacher has feedback. There's a column for feedback right in this area that your teacher will provide for you. Any questions on this so far?
Just want to mention something real quick that Mr. Peterson already told you, is that make sure you do your assignments in the order that they're given, like in here. Last year I had a couple students where you can see, like here, 201 is an assignment, or there's income statement. and you got some quizzes mixed in there. I've had some students skip all those assignments and only do the quizzes, and then they really struggled later on because they had to go back to previous units to figure out what were they supposed to do for those assignments. So again, to make your life a lot easier and to make the lessons make more sense is to make sure that you do everything, the quizzes, the assignments themselves, in the order that they're presented. I think you'll be really successful if you do it that way.
Yeah, that's a really important point to make. So you guys can hopefully understand the importance of doing everything in the order that it's assigned. Yeah, if I could make a sad face on the board here, I would for that case. But none of you guys will do that because you're all going to do it in the order that they're assigned, and we won't have to worry about that. So that's reassuring to know. And then the other course that I had available here would be this one. This is the credit recovery course, and this is credit recovery algebra. I'll start with the home page. And again, I know this may not pertain to everybody, but I think that can be said of everybody that's in here. I think everybody has a little bit different class. But again, it's fairly similar. So this is a third class now, third class that we've seen so far, and you can see that the navigation is all over here on the left-hand side. You have contact information, you have the orientation, all of the units are listed on the left, and you can go in and click on any of these and you work your way through them. With the credit recovery classes, it's important to know, this is a good example. You cannot move from one lesson, or you cannot skip lessons. It will not allow you to skip lessons. It forces you to do them in the order that they're assigned. So that's why you only see within this inequalities and systems here is that you only have the one item. So you want to make sure that, well, you can't even make sure, it forces you to do these one at a time. So this is just the quiz. You'll work your way, again, through that orientation. You can click on the schedule to set up your schedule, and then all you'll be doing is working your way through these systems, well, inequalities and systems in this case. So this is where you would begin with the quiz for the class. I'm not going to click on it right now, but that's how it's set up. It takes you into this, and you click on begin, and you just take it from there. Any questions on this? Yeah, you can do it for me. So as I say, if you have questions about navigation or anything, please always start with the orientation. Make sure that you work through that, and it'll explain everything for you. Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Wiebelhaus, am I missing anything? Anything that you guys want to re-emphasize or reiterate to any of the students right now?
No, you're doing great. And just encourage you to go ahead and get through that orientation right away and figure out your schedule where you saw Mr. Peterson put in that start date and end date. If all of a sudden you're finding that you're getting behind and you're not following that schedule, I would print it out because one thing what happens is it doesn't save the original dates that you put in there. So if all of a sudden you do that like today, or do it on Tuesday, the first day of school, and then all of a sudden 2 weeks later you find that you didn't follow that and you go back to it, it will ask you to put in a new start date again. So I would print out the first time and use that as a tool or a guide as far as when you submit things, and make sure you kind of follow that.
And I'll say in this case, for this particular class, it looks like they start you off with a like a pre-quiz of understanding. So what a student can do is they can click on this and then go through that, and then it'll bring in the next lesson after that to work on the content that the student needs more thorough understanding in, and then they'll work their way through more quizzes. And that brings us to the point where we ask each of you to see if you have any questions that we'd be happy to help you out with in what you've seen so far. Janae, you're probably referring to the live sessions that teachers have available. I have not heard of teachers mandating, I have not heard of FuelEd teachers mandating that students attend the live sessions. They're primarily used for help. They don't necessarily have structured lessons to be going through like what the WVL teachers do, because there's so many kids at so many different points within the course. You might have a student who's just starting in there, while at the same time somebody else who is 3 weeks or 4 weeks along. So it'd be difficult to have material, consistent material for them. I would maybe double check with the teacher on that, but like I say, it's usually intended for support.
It's probably like what we would encourage you to do with our WVL teachers also. If you find that you have quite a few questions or struggling, especially if it's a language course or the accounting in that, and if you're struggling with certain concepts or the pronunciation of this world language that you're studying, I would go into their weekly session that they do offer, because they'll send you a welcome email. I did notice that the Latin teacher has already sent his out, that they encourage you to go in there so that you can have a conversation and get your questions answered. Please don't wait. If you are struggling, you want to make sure you take care of that right away and get the help that you need so that you are successful.
Good questions, guys. This is good, and that's why I'm leaving the recording on here, because there might be other students with similar questions, so feel free to ask. If you feel like there's course-specific or questions that are specific to you that you want to follow up with your SLA or me on, certainly feel free to do that too. We're in the office today. Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Liebelhaus, and myself are in the office. Mrs. Milky and Mrs. Jepson are unavailable today, so just to give you a heads up there. More questions? Anything, guys? Hey, thank you all very much for showing up here this morning. I know you had to peel yourselves out of bed at 9:45 today to make it to today's session, but it'll be worth it. You guys are going to be so far ahead of the curve, it's not even going to be funny. So we really, really appreciate that you guys are coming in here to take care of this today. Thanks a lot. This recording will be on the website with the rest of the recordings, but if you have follow-up questions, please get a hold of us. Thank you all very much, and have a great weekend.